Alright guys, now we're going to continue with our study of the West by examining the myth of the Wild West. And this really gets perpetrated because of the stories told about cowboys. And these small books kind of sold this idealized view of the West. You had cowboys and soldiers were always the heroes, Native Americans were always evil, and the farmers were these helpless little bystanders. The cowtowns always had shootouts, and gunslingers were highly admired. The other thing that really helped sell this image of the Wild West was none other than Buffalo Bill Cody himself. With his Wild West show, which was basically a traveling circus of Wild West myths and stories, and went all over the country, and you'll see some images here from some silent movie clips of it, that people just turned out to watch this. Sort of, like I said, it's sort of a traveling circus slash rodeo. You always had, a stagecoach coming through the arena. You always had great demonstrations of the cowboys riding broncos and precision riding demonstrations as they went around. And Buffalo Bill sort of orchestrated all this, and he helped sell this, and it brought the West to the people in the East. But it really wasn't the true West. But this is what people thought it was. They thought that this is what the West was basically like, what they read in these books, and what they saw in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, with these constant riding around, the Native Americans constantly preying on the farmers, even though that truly rarely happened. Cowboys were romanticized as these great heroes, even though, like we learned, they spent 15 hours in a saddle. This was a hard life. And to top it all off, when you went to these Wild West shows, it wasn't just about seeing demonstrations of cowboys and military riding and precision and stagecoaches and all of that. What you would also see were demonstrations of Native Americans. And the Native Americans that you saw were these stereotypes, that this was them always doing their war dances and etc. like that. And so it was really perpetrated this myth that has come through, even into the old Westerns when television came about. And you have people like Annie Oakley became a very famous part of this show. The reality, like I said, was there was a lack of clean water. You had vigilante gangs that would take the law into their own hands on a regular basis. It was hard work every day just to make a living and survive. And it was rare if you even saw a Native American, much less got attacked by one. But there were some successes to the West. You had thousands of people found land and began a new life. And probably one of the biggest was another law signed by President Lincoln called the Morrill Act, and allowed the federal government to give states 30,000 acres for each member of Congress they had to build a college. And what this allowed them to do is to actually provide public education. And it was sponsored by Justin Smith Morrill, a representative from Vermont that you see here. What's important to the state of Kansas is that the very first public institution created under the Morrill Land Grant College Act was none other than Kansas State Agricultural College, what would later become Kansas State University, the very first public institution of higher learning in the state of Kansas. You also had railroads that would connect the vast stretches of land to the markets in the East, and the biggest failure of all this was not being able to solve the Native American issue without bloodshed. Thanks guys for paying attention. Hopefully we took good notes.